Hey, this is Jacob from Kinnettic Kreations. Today we actually have a 2019 Polaris Ranger 1000 XP, and we're doing our full-on turn signal kit. It includes a set of headlights that have an amber built in. These will work on any XP from 2019 on up. They look different, but they fit. We have a 25 out back, we'll show you later, that has the same headlights in it. It comes, of course, with the front harness, plugs right into the back of the headlights. Other manufacturers sell the same headlights, they all come overseas. We throw a connector on it, we change out their connector for one of ours. The crimps that they send them with are less than ideal. Some of them don't even have seals when they're supposed to, so we switch that out. Otherwise, the headlights are phenomenal. We got our front harness plugs into that. Plugs into some side markers. We always recommend having side markers on the side of the unit so you can be seen. And a horn plugs into that. Now this plugs into our controller, which also has 3 other connectors on it. This one goes to our lever, so this mounts on the steering column. This goes to the dash indicators. These you wire in the back of the instrument cluster for the arrows to work. And then last, it goes to the rear harness, which is here. This guy wanted trailer lights, and then he has whips on it, so we're wiring them in. So this rear harness plugs in the module. These 2 plug into the machine. You got a plug for our license plate bracket. This one's for the trailer harness, and this one will go to the whip lights. Your aluminum lighted license plate bracket. It's mounts at the bottom of the machine in an existing hole with this screw, and plugs into our harness. Trailer is detachable. 2 reasons. 1, so you can take it off when you're not using it. And 2, the only way to make these, or to get these, is pre-molded. So it's easier to have it detached than integrate them with the harness. And then last, this full blinker kit will include some smoke lights on up here. So all the XPs have the same cab. And these lights fit right here. And it comes with a harness that you route through the chassis, the tube on the side. Then you put this connector on, and then that plugs into this. So these will be on as running lights and also flash with the blinkers. So here's an overview of the kit. You got the 2 headlights. Like I said, we take off their connector and their crappy crimps, put ours on, and then we add another connector that'll plug right into our harness. So it plugs in there. These plug into the factory connector on the vehicle. And we got our lights. We got a couple options. This is our most popular one. It's a smoke lens. It's 3/4 tall, 4 inches wide. We also have 2 different round ones. Got a horn. Plugs into our spades. And up here we got this connector plugs into our turn signal controller. These go to the dash. There's labels on the wires. I'll show you how to put them in. That's pretty simple. We got our lever. Simply plugs into our controller. Mounts right to the factory column. Our rear harness plugs in our controller. This one's for whip lights. This one's for trailer lights. And actually these 3 are all wired the same. So if you messed them up, it wouldn't be a big deal. Only on the Ranger. If you have a Razor, these are wired different. If you got a General, they switch to left and right in this connector, so these will always be the same. These will always change. License plate bracket plugs in. Here's our license plate bracket. And then this is the trailer harness. Plug this up right underneath there. Plug in your trailer, detach it, throw it in your glove box or wherever so it's safe. And these go up on the top. All right, we're gonna start. Move the hood. And we're going to strip off both of our fenders. That one's got an antenna on it, so it might not be able to go very far. You need a T20 for that and your little top rivet tool. If you have a newer one, they did change the front end a little bit. This will work on that as well. There's some screws on those and down here where this one has the pop rivets. So we're going to start tearing apart the front end. Got the hood off already. We're going to take both of these off. They got the screw up here, it's a T20 Torx, and they got a bunch of push rivets. If you have a newer machine that's got the different front end, it's about the same. There's some screws here that have a larger Torx bit. So for each one on these older ones, it's 5 push pins and 1 screw. This one has an antenna, so I won't be able to move it very far, so we'll leave it on there for now. This headlight's held in by 3 bolts. There's one up here, and there's 2 underneath here. So they got some springs on them, and then they got 1 connector. So unplug the connector, and we'll get these out. On this one, the springs are stuck on there, so I'm not worried about them shooting off anywhere. Get your 3 screws out. They're T25. For your side marker, we have 3 choices. We have our smoked light, we have our little 3/4 round, and our 1.25" round. Now these have 3 LEDs in them. They're the brightest on the market. And then these have 6 built in, so they're pretty bright too. And these obviously have 6 LEDs. So it's your preference what you want. This customer wanted these, so we're gonna mount them. About 16 inches, so about 8. We'll go 8 from the back. And up and down at that spot is 4. Or up 2. Now for these, all you need is a hole big enough to put the connector through. 5/8 does the trick. We like step drills, as they don't wander. Once you get it through the hole, you'll have to just stick your finger in there and pull the connector out here, because our harness will route here into the headlight. Now we include screws with these. They fit right in the light. You just need a number 1 Phillips screwdriver. Center it over the hole. Level it out. Always mark them. Crank these down. They got foam on the back. And just snug them up. Grab the connector and pull it out. On the bottom here, there's these two springs. You might want to hold on to them in case they fly off. Some of them, this one's stuck, but this one could have gone flying, so let's make sure they're in there. And they go in these slots. So make sure they're all in the slots. And the screws, as you can see here, go through the hole in the headlight, get on the middle of the screw into this hole. So you want to get them all started before you crank them down. Bottom ones are kind of tricky to get the bolt lined up in. This one you can actually see through this hole, and then this one you can kind of watch through the crack here. This one's obviously is pretty simple. Like I said, you don't want these springs to be missing. They push back on the headlight as the bolt pushes in. That way they can be adjusted and still have tension on them. Alright, so we got the headlights mounted. Let's plug in this one. So it's got your ground, your high beam, and your low beam. This one actually controls that separately. One wire turns it white, one wire flashes it amber. So our kit will actually use it as running lights, so you'll have it lit up white all the time with the key on, and then it'll flash amber, you'll see. Alright, now we have our front harness. They'll be labeled up here, left to right. So plug it into your headlight. And your side marker. Oh, it's like that. Same with this one. So you can run it behind all these cables if you want. And we also have this lead for the horn. So you would just plug it in your horn. Make sure you get on the metal spades. If you miss them, it probably won't work. Polarity doesn't matter. You can put them any way you want. And then mount this somewhere. So we're going to mount our lever and wire up our dash indicators. Start by taking our dash out. If you want, you can pull your windshield out of the way. It is a bit tricky getting these out. There's two popper bits way up in the front. Just pull it towards you. Put your steering wheel down. You pull it towards you because it does have these two tabs that slide into the dash. And then to unplug it, push it in, squeeze, and then pull it out. Set that off to the side. So this, you just pop this gray cover open. And in the back here, it's numbered. We need 6 and 7. So what we'll do is we pull out these two blue cavity plugs, discard them. And once you get that off, you can put your wires in. Pin 6 and 7. So the yellow goes by the yellow, the green goes next to it. And you want to put it in so your pins are all lined up in the front. This only goes on one way. You'll know if it's right or wrong. And it just clips on there. If it's not going, you got to make sure your pins are in, and you don't want any of these white fingers to get caught on the outside. All you do is you clasp that shut. That's ready to plug back in. And then you can, we'll run our harness to that and follow it up in there. We're going to mount our lever. So you need, it's a 4mm Allen wrench and a 10mm wrench. So we're going to pop this bolt out. Pop the nut off. Wiggle the bolt out. All we're doing is lifting the steering wheel up, rotate so the lever is on the right side. And put your bolt back in. Don't put the nut on yet, because what we'll do is we'll pass this cable through the hole above the steering column. And just pull these out in the dash. And this hole will go over that bolt. I'll put the nut on there and tighten it. Now the lever will probably be sticking up a bit, so you can just push down, which will bend the bracket around it. And you can still go up and down. And it doesn't really interfere with your headlights. This guy's got the whip lights. Then you got up, down is left, horn, hazard. You can pop the center dash piece out. This one is just 2 pop rivets. If you have a flip out windshield, there's usually another bracket with some T30 bolts. Or if you got ride command, that's all on here. Basically the same. You want to get this out of the way. Just pull these through. And those will plug into our controller. Now we're going to work on the upper lights. So we put these lights up on these cab corners on a couple machines just hooked up with a pulse bar and a roof. This one doesn't have, but a lot of newer ones do. And then someone's like, hey, can you make them flash? So we have a harness that actually attaches them to our front harness. So this kit has it built into our front harness. But if you have just our standard kit that doesn't have the headlights, we have an adapter to just tee into it. So this spot up here is about 4 1/4 by 1 3/8. So if you want, you can measure that. Right in the middle is 4 1/2, so about 2 1/4. And then up, just under 1 1/2, so just under 3/4. It's right above this one, this dot, so we're right here. And the spot is actually nice and open on this one, because you don't have a flip-up window. If you got the flip-up window, this is actually where the hinge goes. So when you're drilling and you have a flip-up window, be careful. Otherwise, there's lots of room back here. And the trick here is once you get the connector through, is there's foam up there. There's actually a spot in here where there's a gap. So you can unbolt the roof and make it easy too, or you can lift up here gently and tuck the wires up under the foam. There we go. So they're in there. got those mounted. Alright, so now we're gonna run our harness. Up here, there's a hole that they put in here, and it runs down, comes down here. As we take another wire, we got some thick 12 gauge wire here. Like fishing tape, we shove it up this hole. There we go. I've tried going from the top down. I haven't had as much luck as going from the bottom up. So our harness comes without the connector on this end, just for this reason. So what we do is we use some electric tape, aggressively wrap it around there, make sure you protect the tips. So now as you're pulling on the wire in the front, push up top. There we go, we're out. So now you can run these over here, plug them in. This we ran over the top here. If you have a headliner, you'll want to pull the headliner out, obviously. Just put the plug up in there. Same thing, plug that in. It's all safe up there. Alright, so we'll unwrap all this tape. It served its purpose. And now you have your connector. You want to make sure this white lock is sticking out just past the lip. And we'll put our pins in. Left is yellow. They only go in one way. There's this tang on the bottom. There's a little tab in the bottom, so it goes in there. Click, then white. Click, and then green. Click. Push that in. But there's a little spot in this corner where they left some room for us. So up in here, it's hard to see the wire comes out in here. So especially if you have a headliner, this is all hidden. Right here, we'll just throw a zip tie around this harness here. I could zip tie it here. The rest is hidden up there. And down in here, we'll pass this to the middle. So right now, we have our dash indicator plug, our lever plug, and our overhead harness plug. The next one is the rear harness. There's more common on these earlier models that the connector in the back only has 4 pins. So this is our 4-pin Ranger kit. The North Stars that have ride command or anything with a backup camera, this connector here will have 8 pins. So it'll be purple and have 8 pins on it. So when you're ordering your kit, we'll have a spot to specify what style rear harness you need, whether it's the 4-pin or the 8-pin. These 2 short ones go to the vehicle. And go there. Then we got our trailer and our license plate. It's tucked down. And then here's our one for our whips. We have this jacketed cable custom made for us. It's right here in Wisconsin, up in Osceola. It's real nice, it's thin, it's got 5 wires in it, and it's got a smooth jacket. So it's waterproof, very abrasion resistant, and easy to pull through here, and it's not thick. Throttle body connector. I'll just leave it there. So we're going to follow this factory harness until we get under the rear seat. Flip your seats up. Pull this out. Now I gotta pull this out. On either side there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of your pop rivets. laid out. And sometimes they put them on the back side of here. There's not one down here. They're kind of like just below this, but there is one on this side. The pop rivet out of there, lift it up. There's usually a power port. There's 2 wires on it, so pull that off. The nice thing that Polaris does is these are different size tabs, so when you go to hook them back up later, you don't have to know which one's which. So we got that out. That one had 9 of these pop rivets. Fish our harness from the back to the gas tank area. We'll go alongside the fuse box and pull it all the way through. There we go. So usually this connector will fit right underneath here. There we go. Same thing, we'll flip up the seat. Pull this out. We'll take the center console out. If you only have a 2-seater, same process, you just skip the back seat. So this one's got 2. That one had 10 of these push rivets. The extra ones are actually right here on the bottom. Now we can just keep pulling this through and go up to the front. It's right here. Give ourselves some slack. Run up the inside of this channel. Up along the top here, there's this cable or hose or whatever it is. I follow that. I come out right here by the radiator cap. There's this little slot here. We got these cables that go down to the winch. So I tuck it up here. And now we got our front harness. So what we'll do is we'll shove all of this through this grommet here. There we go. Apron's tricky, especially with that giant trailer cable in there. Put a 3-pin through. Shove those inside. We got those in. These are air snorkel. Grommets in. Now what we left from our kit is our controller. We have our rear harness, Plugs in the one that says rear harness. It's all labeled. Here's our front harness. We have our overhead harness. Plugs in there. Then we have dash indicators. And we have lever. Plug in our dash. Set it in here for now. Horn works. Left arrow in the dash. So side marker flashing. Headlights strobing. Our upper flashing. Over here it's a running light. Down here you got the white running light. And the running light. And we got our blinker. The controller is built in with a 45-second timeout feature. So in a few seconds here, should stop flashing. There you go, it stopped flashing. It's still in left. We get to turn it off, it's okay. You won't be driving through town looking like you're turning left forever. So you got right arrow. Yeah. Hazards. Always included is our hazards and our horn. The lever comes with the switch on it already. And our hazards actually don't time out ever. Only the blinkers do. Alright, now we're going to do our license plate. Right back here, there's this channel. And there's a hole right here. That's where I always mount our plate. It managed to just clear the tire, your sway bar, frame, everything. Make sure your plate's perpendicular. And I'll usually pass the harness through this channel. We'll throw some zip ties on it. You can see the plate's clear of everything. Alright, the last thing we need to hook up is our whip lights. This rear harness has an additional connector on it for whip lights. What we'll do is we'll plug this in here. We'll route this harness with the rest of it up to the whip light controller. Alright, we have our harness in the rear. As you can see, the power and the ground are already hooked up. This thing had whips on it already. But you hook our harness up to the way the directions for your whip lights will tell you. On this one, red is power, black is ground, white is brake lights, which we don't hook up. And then yellow and green are left and right. Their yellow is right, our yellow is left. Their green is left, our green is right. So we actually have to flip the colors. I was able to check that. I didn't get instructions, but just by touching to the battery here. The reason we don't hook up the brakes is because our harness has the brake signal in these. So when you hit the brakes, you also turn on one of these or both of these, and it overrides the brakes. So unfortunately, it's just how it goes with the way whip lights are wired up. There's some heat shrink on there. And what we're going to connect these with, these are called parallel splices. They're nice because if you got mismatched wire sizes, like here, I actually had to repair these because they have their 22 gauge or whatever wire, and this harness or this cable they had in the machine had like a 14 gauge wire on it, and the red wire actually pulled out of it when I was messing with it, so we fixed that with some parallel splices. These let you put both wires next to each other and crimp them down, so if you have a mismatched size, it doesn't really matter. So yellow to green. Green yellow. I like to stagger my splices, so I got one done. I'll trim this little yellow wire, so it should be about the same length, and it's done. Slide those over, and before we heat shrink it all, and make sure the whips do what they're supposed to do. So as you can see, he's already got a whip light switch on here. So turn that on. His whips are on. We'll go left, right, hazards. We do brakes. Now if you hook up just the brake wire, they would turn red, but since our turn signal wires in the back also come on with the brakes, because that's how we control the taillights, the turn signals would override the brakes and you get this anyways, so hooking up the brake would really do nothing. So we'll just snip the end off of that. We'll cap it. Alright, now we'll just took all this away. We'll actually attach this with his whip light controller. On this machine we have installed our backup lights. We've hooked up his whip lights to our turn signal kit. We've installed our turn signal kit, and when we put 2 light bars on the front. So the last thing I'm going to do now is I'll zip tie everything down nice, put the covers back on, and tuck this stuff up in a little bundle. Now we don't use tape around here very much, but when we do, we use this Tessa tape. 51036 is their part number. It's like a fabric. You have to cut it with scissors. Much better abrasion resistance than anything else you can easily get your hands on. Let's try to zip tie our harness to the factory harness as much as possible. They actually have a pretty good job routing these where it's safe for moving parts, heat. here. Now this one's got that power outlet, so don't forget to hook those wires up. And luckily, one's smaller than the other. So you put that one on first. And they have us use really hard to mess up the polarity on that.